No. No, I don't think so. Bill, I have mulled that over in my mind a number of times. I think the thing was that we got to keep in mind that adults 25, 35, 40, they were into the big band thing,
right.
and justifiably so. The big bands were just super great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but we had then, the next thing you had kiddie records, that you played for 5, 6-year-old children, this sort of thing. So the void from 10, 11, 12 years to 18, 19 years old, it was such a void that I felt that it needed to be filled, and actually I was a little afraid of the fact that we couldn't do it at that time with a black artist,
mm-hmm.
the people that really had a feeling. So I just felt that that if we could find a white man that could do the thing innately like the black person could do, and this could come about. Now, certainly there was a lot of resistance to the fact that we all wanted our children and this sort of thing to kind of grow up in our image, and anything that wasn't fairly conventional to the adults, they didn't see any reason for it with the younger people, but we felt differently.
But now, when you look back at that era, for instance, I'm reading one gentleman who wrote for the Chicago Daily News, who said basically that Elvis Presley, Mike Royko of the Chicago Daily News, stated that Presley, by becoming one of the first whites to successfully steal music from the blacks, pioneered a thriving industry. Did he steal the music from the blacks?
No, music is a type of thing, Bill, that he stole nothing. He took a feel that the black man had and that the country white man had, and because he's so basically country and came from the roots like the black man, no way did he steal from the black man, nor did he steal from, I would say, country music. I think that it was one of these situations where you just feel something, and who in the hell wants to put a tag on everything, and especially something that could have as broad a base as it is wound up that music has now. He certainly did not steal at all. I mean, he just added something to it and felt a part of it, and if that's stealing, then maybe he did in that sense.
He certainly made it palatable to a mass audience, didn't he?
Well, he sure did, and I'll say this, that if the one thing that I didn't want to do, Bill, was to be accused at all of being a copier. Now, in the sense that to get somebody to try to sound like a black man, to me, that would have been revolting. Mm-hmm. I wanted the white man, and the only reason for that was, let's just face it, we had a racial problem. We had a racial problem in records, in music. You know that.
Oh, sure.
There was pop music, there was rhythm and blues, quote unquote, and there was hillbilly or country and western. Now, you know, now you're talking about segregation. We had it, so I had to be a realist. Listen, I had recorded black artists for 4 years before I met Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And but I had to be a realist. There's no one in the world that loves to record, especially blues stuff, black blues, than I do. But I had to be a realist, and this is why I worked so hard to bridge that gap and get the acceptance. And I believe this as much as I believe I'm living. Now, I heard B.B. King, not B.B., but Rufus Thomas say the other day here in Memphis, that he really felt that Elvis and the Carl Perkinses and people like that in that day actually bridged this thing, opened up a field that might never have opened up for an awful long time to the black artists to be accepted by the young whites.
I think that's very true. I mean, Chuck Berry made a big impact, but his impact was not...
You better believe it, right.
But again, it took a Presley to even make Chuck Berry recognizable to a lot of people.
Exactly. That is absolutely, in my mind, is exactly what happened. And I don't say it never would have come, but I think it would have been way down the road, if ever.
Now, when you go back to that era when you found Elvis back, it was 1954, was it not? Or was it earlier?
Actually, I started with Elvis in '53.
Yeah.
We started to, quote unquote, in the music business, woodshedding a little bit,
Right.
playing around, and so. But actually, getting down to business, it was '54.
Now, how did you find him?
Well, I think, Bill, most people have heard that he came in to make a record for his mother's birthday, and that was exactly what happened. And we had a little small studio here, and we were trying to get going. Heck, I was recording funerals and weddings and just about anything, in addition to making, phonograph records. And, of course, ultimately, that was the thing that I wanted to do, but I had to keep my doors open, you know?
Right, right.
So Elvis came in one day, and I saw him from the back. It was a small studio, looking through the glass and everything. And he came in and was talking to Miss Keisker, who was the only other person that worked for him at that time, and she only worked part-time. So I was busy working on a tape in the back, and she came back and said, this young man up here wants to make a record for his mother's birthday, and the birthday is tomorrow. So I want to know if I do it. I said, sure. I was just in the mood, you know. I said, well, somebody wants to make for their mother. So anyway, I don't know why I said yeah, you know.
But you
Normally
did.
I would have said, well, come back tomorrow or something, later today. But he came on back there, and I explained to him, I got to say this, Bill, that he has got to be, and up until the day he died, he has got to be the most polite human being, and I've met some good, polite Southerners, because I may not be polite, but I'm a damn Southerner myself.
Sure are.
And I don't guess you can tell that from my voice on the phone. But anyway, I think Elvis. So anyway, I just grew to love this guy making this little old record, and he sung his heart out, whether it was for Gladys, his mother, or whether he was trying to impress me. I do know that he actually did want to make that record for his mother. But I kind of think that Elvis was saying also, Mr. Phillips, I want you to hear me, but I'm too timid to come in and ask you for an audition. Now, I don't know that, and he never did ask
Never told
me.
you that.
He never did tell me, and I never did really ask Elvis.
Now, but again, this is back in '53, '54, and you finally went with him, and you cut about, how many sides? Was it about 4 or 5 sides?
We had 5 releases on Elvis.
5 releases, and then
releases, right.
And then you sold them to RCA Victor for a figure of $35,000. Is that right?
That's correct.
Why did you sell them?
I needed the money. Elvis had made a big impression. We had not sold millions of records. Keep in mind that I was a very small company, and I had to work in a manner in which that I could operate from a very limited economic standpoint. I had, there was an awful lot of talk, Bill, before it was nationally known, but there was a tremendous amount. This guy started off with some kind of a charisma. When I took him to the Louisiana Hayride and to the Grand Ole Opry and to the Overton Park Shell here for his first real live appearance and everything, you won't believe now, and this wasn't on name power, because keep in mind he was relatively unknown, except maybe in the general South and to a limited degree in the South. But he had a magnetism I can only describe possibly as maybe like, if you could compare these two, like a John Kennedy, regardless of what your politics is.
Yeah, very true. I mean? And maybe even a Muhammad Ali. I think.
That's right. Right. Only I feel that Elvis had a way of getting closer to people emotionally. It might have been because he was in the entertainment business, whereas Kennedy in politics and Muhammad fighting, you know. But there was just something, and I knew we had something. How long it would last or how truly big it would become. But anyway, Tom Parker called me from New York and said, would I be interested? I had heard that some of the distributors had called me, my distributors from across the country, and said, understand, Sam, you think about selling Presley's contract? I said, I am not any such thing. I said, I wouldn't do that. You people have been good to me. Y'all have helped make Elvis as much as I have. Without you, couldn't have done it. And I said, there's nothing in the wind, but I said, if there ever is, I will. Anyway, to make a long story even more boring, we actually felt in Blue Suede Shoes. I had recorded on Carl Perkins, and nobody wanted to buy Carl. And back then, keep in mind, Bill, It sounds like nothing now, but $35,000 plus about between $4 and $5 that I owed him in royalties at that time. That was all the money in the world, and especially to a small company.
Yeah.
And I also checked the record, and at that time, for a personal services contract in the entertainment business, that was the most money that had ever been paid for an artist. And the next one was Frankie Lane being sold from Mercury to Columbia Records for $25,000. So
things have gone up since then.
Slightly.
Yeah, they sure have. What about Sam Phillips and Elvis Presley in the 70s? Did you know him in the 70s the way you knew him in the 50s?
Well, not as well, of course, and I wasn't around Elvis that much, but I knew Elvis from a child. I got to know him the 3 years that I worked with him personally. I got to know Elvis very well. Now, Bill, I don't know whether you know it or not, and I'm not trying to be immodest or anything like that, but I read people real well, and I think this is a type of thing you have got to do to be in the producing business like I was in for so many years.
Right.
And I read into this person, and of course I felt toward Elvis like more like a son than I guess any other artist. Now, I've always loved every artist I worked with. I was a strict taskmaster. There's some of them criticized me. I don't think they meant any malintent or anything, but they respected me because they knew I meant business.
Mm-hmm.
When we went in that studio, we wanted to relax and really do a job, but we didn't want any hanky-panky, getting drunk,
right.
And this is way before the drug thing. I didn't have that. If they wanted to get drunk as a lord or anything, which God knows I didn't have that problem when I was recording any of these artists, because I wouldn't have it. Now, I like to have a drink as good as anybody, and even then I like to pop a beer. But what I'm trying to say is that what the hell is the point I'm trying to make? I got embellishing the thing, Bill.
Well, I think we were just talking about whether you had a relationship with Presley in the 70s.
Right. I'm sorry. Yes, I did, and I feel like that Elvis, up until the day that he died. Now, when I got out to the home and talked to Mr. Presley, Mr. Vernon Presley,
mm-hmm.
I was standing at Elvis's beer, and he was seated there just after the services were over, and I put my hand on Elvis and said a little prayer, and I turned to Vernon, and he looked up at me and said, "Sam, there's not a human being." I don't mean this bragging on me.
Yeah.
But he said, "Sam, there is not a human being on this earth that Elvis had rather have right where you are right now than you."
That's quite a statement.
And I said, "Well, Vernon, God knows, Elvis knows that we're right here by him." And I believe that.
Now, do we get Sam Phillips back in the record business, or does Sam Phillips remain in the broadcasting industry?
No, sir, I will not get back in it.
Why?
Bill, I feel it's time, and a half for some time, for the younger people to stay in this business and to get in it in a good, honest, hard-working way, and not look for the fast buck. I never look for the fast buck.
Right.
And we need younger people, younger blood, people with vitality. And I love the industry, and I want to see that. Not for Sam Phillips anymore.
Right, but we need innovators, and we need innovators who can work without corporations telling them and lawyers telling them where to spend the bucks. And I think that's the problem in the record industry today, that the creativity isn't where it should be.
You're exactly right, in my judgment also.
All right. Sam Phillips, I want to thank you for taking time out on a Sunday live from Memphis, Tennessee, to fill us in on Elvis Presley as you knew him. And, of course, we also want to tell everybody, of course, that you have worked with Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis and Charlie Rich and so many of the greats in popular music. I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Bill.
Now, you know, Sam, there have been some rumors in the street that Sam Phillips, I know you sold all the masters to RCA Victor Records, but is there a gospel album possibly in the works with Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins?
No, Bill, there is not, to my knowledge. We had, now, at the time, this was in 1957, I sold Elvis. The last record I could sell on him was December 31, 55.
Mm-hmm.
He went to RCA Victor January 1, 56. In '57, I was recording Carl Perkins at the little studio on Union Avenue, the little small studio before we moved over on Madison Avenue. And in came that day, came Jerry Lee Lewis. None of this was planned. In came Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, in came Elvis Presley. And he'd been with RCA, a year by then, you know?
Right.
Over. And what we did was that we put a little 7-inch tape at 7.5 IPS, or inches per second, on a couple of machines, and no mics were placed or anything, but God, I thought to myself, well, when in the world will we get all four of these people together, you know? So for 2 hours, we just had a fantastic time off mic. Jerry Lee picking the guitar and singing, Elvis playing the piano and singing.
Oh, that must have been something.
Well, but you know, that tape has been misplaced, Bill. I don't know what has happened to it. It was approximately 2 hours of totally just spontaneous stuff that I wanted just to keep personally. Had absolutely no intention of commercializing or anything at all on it. But so far as the gospel album, anything, I am certainly not aware of it.
Now, Sam, one looks at the 70s, of course. Some people have said that Elvis Presley became the king of schmaltz, that he started doing Tony Bennett-type songs and Broadway-type songs, and that the vitality, the intensity was gone. Maybe that's the case, maybe it isn't, but the audience has certainly responded to Elvis. But the thing that concerns me about the 70s, he became a recluse. Nobody, or did he?
Well, number one, Bill, I would not have let Elvis had I had anything to do with it. But now I can't criticize the people that handled him. He did fantastically well, as we all know. But I do, and I think most people that really love the basics of music that we had in the 50s and everything, and knowing the type of singer that Elvis is, probably did feel that his music became a little bit, in many instances, a little bit too much formula. You know what I mean?
Right. You knew beforehand what he was going to do.
That's right. That's right. In other words, even as spontaneous as Elvis is or was, I really feel that. Now, it could have been many causes for it, the pressures, the tensions, and this sort of thing. As to the question as to a recluse, there's no question about it that Elvis did become somewhat of a recluse. I don't think to the degree that has possibly been written, at least I've heard about, but I do feel that this thing got so big for Elvis that he just could not let down, and really, like I said to someone, it would have been such great therapy for Elvis, at least in his hometown of Memphis here, to have just been able to go out on the street corners. And I think this could have been done. This could have been worked. Certainly, we're taking guards for a while and this sort of thing. But I think Elvis, knowing how much he loved one-on-one with people he liked.
But he lost it, though, didn't he?
Beg your pardon?
He lost it, though, didn't he?
Well, I don't think he really, he wanted out of this thing. Not that he ever wanted to lose his fame or anything like that. I mean, as modest as he was, he certainly loved the accolades, but he wanted so much to be like Bill, like you, like me, at least in his hometown, you know. He really did, but I don't know that I would have known the answer either. After it had gone so far, but he did not. He did not want to be a recluse, but let's just face it, that he was to a degree.
Now, when you look back, though, at the Elvis Presley phenomenon, what would you say would be the one main thing he contributed, if anything, to popular music? Was it a blending of country and western and rhythm and blues into the mainstream?
Definitely, I think that is true, but to go a little further than that, I think Elvis personally appealed to such a broad base of people. Now, keep in mind, he certainly had his critics, and as you said in the first part of this interview here, you wondered if everybody tried to kill him. In a way, there's no doubt about it, that they thought this was a passing fancy and this sort of thing, but I think his great contribution was his personal appeal. And he had a way, Bill. Let's just assume, and we know this, that Elvis Presley, and he would be the first to admit it, didn't have the greatest voice in this world. But he had a way of conveying himself in that groove, and certainly in person, that I can't explain it, and I don't believe there's anybody living today that can. And I think this is where he made the fantastic contribution that he did, that he broadened the base for more people to love music and not be so critical as to what category
it would fall. What about, when you take a look at what's happened, again, the Presley death, do we have a void in Southern white soul now with Presley's death?
Bill, certainly we do have a void. I don't think that anybody could deny the fact that certainly to me, he was the greatest, biggest thing that's ever come on the scene in music. They're talking about Valentino. Of course, I wasn't live back in those days or old enough to know anything about it. But let's just face it, regardless of whether I had ever recorded, had any association with this guy, there will be a void. There's no question, and there is a void already. But I certainly don't think that Elvis was bigger. I think he left a legacy here. I don't think he's bigger than the music industry, which I think radio and records is the greatest form of entertainment that's ever been devised.
No doubt about it.
And I know Elvis knows that at his demise that this is not going to stop. So, void, yes, but so far as another Elvis, certainly maybe not in the same fashion or form, but it'll go on, Bill, and this is the way, of course, that Elvis would want it to be.
You think Elvis would want the carnival that's taken place since his death?
I don't think that, I don't believe quite he would have thought that it is a carnival. Now, we know that there's going to be people that take advantage commercially and all of this thing. This is why I might say to you, Bill, I've had my son, my oldest son, Knox, has been taking care of most of the calls that I have received. But we have had hundreds of calls for this type of thing. You are one of the few that I've given an interview to. Because
appreciate it.
I know you're a very honest person. You're not looking for scandal, quote unquote, all of that BS, you know? But anyway, Elvis, I really feel if you were out and if you knew Elvis like I did, these people, and when we left the mansion here, going to the cemetery, the people, of course, it's normally from his house to where he's entombed, approximately 10, 12 minutes. Well, it took us about an hour and 15 minutes, the entourage, and I observed the people, the thousands, hundreds, they were lying just solid for every how many miles it is, approximately 5 miles, I'd say, and I looked at the countenance of these people, and to me, I have never seen, and I'm not talking about curiosity seekers, certainly you're going to have some of that, but I have never seen a fan in my life like an Elvis Presley fan. Have you?
No, I haven't.
So I don't believe Elvis. I think Elvis, as long as he didn't feel that it was abusive or some commercial advantage to compromise what he really believed in and loved so much was entertaining people. I think he would say, Glory, if you really want to celebrate or whatever, you know, or if you want to be sad, I just feel that way about it. I believe that would be his sentiment.